Carlina Salguero here, and I'm here right now to talk about fear. Yep, fear. I run the nonprofit PortSide, New York, on the historic ship Mary Whale, and I'm in the galley. You can see the portholes behind me. And we have found over the years that there's quite a bit of fear, actually, about boats and the water and associated things. And so for those of us who like boats and people in the maritime space, nonprofit or commercial, there's like, wow, boats are great, the harbor, the waterfront, it's all terrific. And we believe that that's true here at PortSide, but we've come to recognize that there's a considerable amount of fear, and I want to explain how we deal with it the PortSide way. So you understand us and maybe you get something out of it too. So what we found is with elementary school students, so our programming for education runs elementary school through college, post-grad, and also with adults. But with the elementary school visits, there are going to be 1 to 3 kids who each visit, a first visit, who are going to reveal that they have some kind of fear. And those are school trips of about, max 20 kids. So that gives you some idea right there how many. And we found that actually if we show that we are interested and concerned and supportive and respectful about the child expressing fear, this may prompt others to come forward. And the way we're trying to deal with it is to foster youth development, to help the kids through this, not just to get them on the boat. But we've also found it's really very powerful for what it does for class dynamics if those kids, those students are going to keep coming. So here's what will happen. And I'm the person who will deal with the fear component. There may be other PortSide members of the PortSide team doing other things, but at the point we got someone who's frightened, that for me is the most important person in the visit. And so if it's a kid, I'll say, once the kid has expressed fear, my first thing is I say, do you want to tell me about it? And that's phrased that way. I don't want to say, tell me about it. That's an order. I want to ask the child to have the kid feel comfortable, like it's an option. I've never had a kid say no. Then they'll explain why they're frightened. And then I will try to address that. And that usually has to do with, I can't swim. It'll also be maybe the ship is moving, and then I'll follow a question, are you afraid the ship is going to sink? Yes. I mean, that movie Titanic has done an awful lot of creation of fear. And then also with all of these shark programming, there are a fair number of kids who will express fears about sharks. So then what I do is I try to rationally address the problem, the fear that they've expressed, not by saying there's no reason to be afraid. That just denies somebody's experience. And anyone who has fear, whether it's that little kid to adults with PTSD, telling someone there's no reason to be frightened doesn't help them through that and cure it. And it just makes you someone that they feel they can't talk to or listen to, which is not, if you're teaching, how you want the kid to feel about you. So I'll give some kind of answer about sharks sinking. And so that it may be like, you're not going to be near the edge. So if you're standing right where I'm showing you, you won't actually be able to fall over the ship to drown. Or they're not sharks jumping up on the deck, or those are my kind of rational explanations. Or the ship is very hard to sink because of how she's built, and I talk about compartments. And then I always ask, does that help? And there may be a follow-up question. What often happens actually is the kids will get interested in whatever content I've described, and so in a way their curiosity gets them asking follow-up questions and away from their emotional condition of being frightened. Another thing that I will often do is say, would you like me to hold your hand? Again, I don't say, give me your hand, or I can hold your hand. I give the child the choice, would you like to hold your hand? I've never had a child say no. And usually those kind of 3 or 4 things right in there solves it enough to get the kid up the gangway on the boat. The gangway's pretty frightening because gangways moves a little bit. So I may have to do another round of questions and then answers once we get up on the deck. But what this does is this establishes a trust in me, in the host, to be treating the kid this way. There can sometimes be some trepidation, which is why you will see if you've visited our social media, we have the tankerman's cabin, the first interior space on the ship set up, I call it first grade reception room, with stuffy toys and things like that. We've discovered that bunk beds are a huge attraction. It's as if they were an amusement park or something, and saying to kids, yes, you can get in the bunk bed. Kids that are nervous, they'll forget about that nervousness, getting on the bunk bed or playing with the stuffy toys or whatever. And we also discovered it's really good to let kids have a few minutes of sort of shakedown as they come out of school, to sort of transition to the experience of being on the boat. So that's an example as to how we've been dealing, with fear with kids. We've also honestly had it with adults. It's a different dynamic, however, with an adult, because the adult has chosen to come here. Whereas like students, kids have been brought here by the school. And we think it's really important to not use a power thing like no reason to be afraid or come up here now or you have to come up here or sort of something like that. I can tell you it's so effective. One school we did a lot of programming with in Red Hook, PS 676. One year we went to their December holiday party in the gym, and the first grade kids got out of line to be with Santa to come give me a hug. And my conclusion was, okay, who is more important to them, the person who gives them a gift one time a year or the person who will listen to them every time they come if they're frightened? And the answer was the person who listens. And so what will also happen is when we have students with recurrent visits, and we do wish the DOE used the harbor more so there'd be more schools coming for more than a once a year special field trip, again, the person who's most important to me is anyone who expresses fear. So we've had classes with little elementary school kids start, and let's say we're about to start reading, and one little kid, I remember one time goes, Miss Carlina, I'm frightened. No, I think she actually said, I have fear, in interesting phrasing. And I said, oh. And I said, because all the kids were sitting there looking, I said, do you want to tell us about it? Again, giving the child the choice to reveal that situation or not. And she says, yes. And then so she proceeded to, and it was just like the other situation I described, explain the fear, and then I tried and rationally address it and did that work, and you have other questions. We resolved it, reading started. We spent maybe 4 minutes on that. But what I found is allowing that kind of thing to come up and responding to it, in fact, doesn't interrupt the flow of the class. Like we're not looking at the clock like, okay, we can't spend 4 minutes on that child's fear because maybe there's another one. Having spent the 4 minutes on that child's fear, all the kids see it. And then the kids realize they feel safer here. They feel heard and respected and listened to. And then I've had another private moment. Some kids come and say, Miss Carlina, and they'll express a concern. Some of these I will convey to teachers or the staff at the school, depending on what they are. But this actually makes the kids so, I'm failing at the words right now, but there's such a feeling, like as I described, when they get out of line for Santa, they are so happy to be here. They're often just falling all over themselves, like how can we help or what can we do or what's next? And that's the result of really addressing and listening to and helping the kid get through that. So that's the end of my video today for fear in kids, and maybe another time I'll talk about how we've dealt with adults who've had claustrophobia and various kinds of phobias, but for whatever reasons they don't really want to be here. All right? Good luck with your fear.